Well, hey there, Frailers. Pete Glaze here, and this is the Frailing Folk Song of the Week. And this one's going to be a little different because what I'm going to do is I posted a video earlier this week where I was doing just kind of a loose version of Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses on the banjo in G. And I got a few people who were interested in having me do this as the Frailing Folk Song of the Week and just show people how I was playing it. There's nothing all that fancy about it, but I'll break it down a little bit just to show you. Now, so I'm not going to play it again the way I did, but I'll make the video. I'll bring it back up to the top of the queue, so to speak. But in any event, so what I did is, I wasn't trying to reproduce the intro, because the intro to Sweet Child of Mine has it's a very specialized intro, and as I said in my comments, life is just too short for me to spend my time trying to figure it out note for note on the banjo. But so what I really try to do is I try to take the song and I try to bring it in and give it the flavor. Do an arrangement that gives it a little bit of the flavor of the original without copying the original, because that makes it more my own song. And that's what I hope you folks will try to do even when I'm showing you things on the Frailing Folk Song of the Week. I'm hoping that you will take, what I'm showing you and create your own thing out of it. I'm giving you a framework, I'm showing you what I do, but, I'm hoping that you will take that and kind of run with it. And one thing I wanted to actually mention is, Patrick Costello's been putting up the Daily Frail as an audio file, which personally, I love it, because, music is about listening. And even learning music should be more about listening necessarily than parroting or copying something that somebody else is doing. So when I was first learning how to play guitar, for example, this is long before YouTube. This is actually sadly before CDs were even out. So we would listen to records. Sometimes we could buy sheet music, sometimes, which would have chords printed in it. But generally, we'd have to get the record and listen to the record and try to figure out the chords from listening to the record. Sometimes we'd have to take the record and slow it down to half speed in order to try to figure out what somebody was playing, in order to figure out. So, by those standards, things are pretty easy, but it's the listening. I learned a lot of what I know just from, listening to the music and trying to figure out the rhythm of the chord changes and the patterns of the chord changes. And that's what Patrick is trying to do with the audio files. He's trying to get people to listen to the pattern and interpret and, predict what the chord changes are going to be just by listening to how they flow. And that's a great thing. I think it's great anyway. So anyway, getting back to Sweet Child of Mine. So what I did at the beginning is, now if you take your D chord and if you slide it up to the 7th fret here, so your first finger's at the 7th fret, that actually becomes a G. So the whole beginning of the song, the whole way through the first part of the song, is all G, F, and C. And so the introduction is really just, in this case, G, F, and C. Now the original recorded version, I think, is in like D flat or something like that. The guitars are all tuned down a half step. So I've reinterpreted this and brought it to the key of G to make it, you know, a little more straightforward for the banjo. But in any event, so we're starting with a G, but we're starting with a G up here at the 7th fret, and we're leaving the 4th string to ring. So what I'm doing is I'm actually throwing in, it becomes a suspended chord, I believe it is, if you do your G and then you have your little finger playing. So what I'm doing is striking down on the 3rd string and then hammering on immediately with my first finger. So it's open, so it's like, and so then I'm playing on the 1st string. So it's, really just the basic Frailing strum. And then I drop it down and that becomes an F. And then a bar across at the 5th fret is a C. And then back up to this again. I only do that a couple of times. You can do it as long as you want to if it feels right. So let's go through that. I'll get a little closer here so you can see. Back up to the G. And then drop it down to the F. And then kind of a... And then back up to here. And then the way I did it, now I start playing just the normal G in the Frailing strum. And it's pretty slow. And it's just, she got a smile and it seems to me, and it goes to F. Reminds me of childhood memories when everything was as fresh as a bright blue sky. Now what I did in there, if you remember in the original recording, they've got a little echo going on. So it goes, bright blue sky, sky, sky. So what I did, just kind of, I paralleled that a little bit on the 4th fret, just going. So, now and then when I see her face, back to G, and down to F, it takes me away to that special place. No, I'm just kind of doing a little hammer on here just to add a little note here, just on these 2 fingers, or you can just do on the 3rd string. Just a little variation. I don't even know if I ever do it the same way twice, but it's just to add a little bit of that extra bump ditty. So it's a bump-a-ditty kind of feel. Special place, if I stay too long, probably break down and cry. And then, now for the Whoa, Sweet Child of Mine part, it goes to a D. Whoa, and then F. Sweet child of mine. Whoa, sweet love of mine. Now there's a little instrumental break in here. And it just goes kind of like right along with the melody. And it's pretty easy to play. So I just kind of go. And then, so that's really just playing the G. So you can kind of hammer on to a D7 there. And then goes to an F. And then to a C. So you play that for a little bit, and then you can go back to the Whoa, D. Sweet child of mine. Back to D. Oh, sweet love of mine. So it's D, F, and G. D, G, and it goes into the second verse. She got eyes of the bluest skies, and back to F. If they thought of rain, to C. I hate to look into those eyes and see a G, an ounce of pain. Stays on G. It reminds me of a warm, safe place. Well, back to F. As a child I'd hide. C. Pray for the thunder and the rain. G. Quietly pass me by. And it goes back to the oh, whoa, sweet child of mine. That's a D. Whoa, sweet child of mine. Whoa, sweet love of mine. Okay, so now after the first two verses, and then a little bit of chorus, music kind of changes. It goes to A minor, F, G, A minor, F, G. So you just kind of vamp on that a few times, and this is all kind of this is all kind of made up. I mean, I know what the chords are, but A minor, F, G, A minor, F. Sorry about that. Running out of battery. F. So this repeats a few times. And then it goes into the end, which would be so it's E minor, G, A minor, C, D, E minor, G, A minor, C, D. And this literally repeats over and over for the rest of the song. And there's a lot of improv vocals on here. And one of the things that I did in there was I went, so I did a A minor. So it's basically, I'm doing the Frailing strum here, but I'm dampening the strings with my hand. So it's E minor. So it's E minor, G. So it's E minor, G, A minor, C, D, E minor, G, A minor, C, D. Where do we go? Sweet child, where do we go? Same thing, it's E minor, G, A minor, C, D, E minor, G, A minor, C. Where do we go? Sweet child, where do we go? Where do we go? Where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go now? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Now, what I did is I started playing double time, which actually messed me up in the singing, I have to admit, but it's like, so it's like, now this is just what I did. You don't necessarily have to do this. just went out, and then finally carry that on for a bit, singing over it. Sweet A minor, child of mine. Back to E minor. So that's basically it. A lot of that was just kind of improvisation, playing what felt right, you know, having a basic knowledge of how the original song went and just kind of adapting it to how I would, you know, what I could do with it on the banjo. It would probably be really cool to have a fiddle player, you know, for that whole thing, to be doing some really nice fiddle licks on. It'd be cool to have a fiddle player over there. So if you happen to know one, get him over. Anyway, so that is the Frailing Folk Song of the Week. I will post the lyrics up. You can get the chords from what I'm playing in here. And then, you know, you may have to go back and listen to the song again, or you may have it committed to your memory enough that you can kind of play around with it how you want to sing it. You don't have to sing it as high as I am. You know, you could be going... Where we go, sweet child, where do we go, sweet child, ay, 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 sweet child of mine. So you can bring it down, lower. You don't have to try to sing it as high as I was trying to sing it. Just have fun with it, and let me know how you do with it. And you guys have a good week.